The blind cellist collided with Chicago's most feared mob boss, and every armed man in the hotel froze when he whispered, "You're alive." But why would a ruthless man recognize a woman who had never seen his face? Outside rain hammered the city like gunfire. Claire Whitmore stood alone beneath the cold lights of a luxury hotel, her soaked fingers wrapped around a white cane, her cello strapped across her back. She had only wanted shelter. Instead, one wrong step carried her into the arms of a man tied to the darkest night of her childhood. This is more than a story about danger and forbidden desire. It is about hidden strength, stolen freedom, buried guilt, and the moment a woman everyone underestimated finally discovers who has been controlling her life. Stay until the end, because the truth behind Adrian Cross's whisper changes everything. Like the video and comment where you're watching from. The words stayed between them even as the first bullet struck the glass. "You're alive!" Claire barely had time to understand what Adrian Cross meant before the hotel lobby exploded into chaos. The shot tore through the revolving doors and buried itself in a marble column inches from her shoulder. Guests screamed. Someone dropped a tray of champagne glasses, and the sound shattered across the floor like ice breaking on a frozen lake. Adrian moved before Claire could breathe. One arm closed around her waist. The other forced her behind the nearest stone pillar. His body covered hers as another bullet cracked through the lobby. "Stay down," he said. His voice no longer carried shock. It had become cold, measured, and absolute. Claire pressed one palm against the marble. Every shot traveled through the column and into her bones. She could hear men shouting from the entrance, the rapid movement of polished shoes, the sharp mechanical snap of weapons being raised. She could also hear Adrian's breathing. It was steady, too steady for a man being shot at. Grant Mercer shouted from somewhere near the doors. 2 shooters across the street. Black sport utility vehicle. Driver is still inside. Adrian drew his pistol. Claire heard the weapon clear its holster. "Keep her behind the column," he ordered. "I am not one of your men," Claire said. Another shot struck the floor. Adrian leaned out and fired twice. A tire burst outside. An engine roared. Metal screamed against metal as one of the attacking vehicles struck a street lamp. Adrian turned back to her. "Right now, you're the only person in this room I need alive." Claire felt anger cut through her fear. "You don't know me." His hand tightened against the marble beside her head. "I know enough." Before she could answer, Grant reached them. "We have to move. Service exit is clear for maybe 30 seconds. Adrian looked down at Claire's cane lying several feet away. A guard reached for it. "Careful," Claire snapped. The man stopped. Adrian crossed the open floor himself. Gunfire punched into the reception desk as he bent, recovered the cane, and returned. He placed the handle into Claire's palm. His fingers brushed hers. For one brief second, the violence around them seemed to recede. Then Claire felt something warm on the back of his hand. "Blood. You're hurt." "Not mine." The answer came too easily. Grant stepped closer. "We move now." Adrian reached for Claire's wrist. She pulled away. "Do not drag me." His hand fell still. Another man might have ignored her. Adrian did not. He shifted beside her and offered his forearm. "Take my arm." 6 steps forward. There is broken glass after the 3rd step. Claire hesitated. Gunfire continued at the entrance. She wrapped her fingers around his sleeve. "Move!" They crossed the lobby together. Adrian matched her pace instead of forcing her to match his. He warned her before every change in direction. 2 steps down. Turn right. Door ahead. Claire heard guards closing around them. Their bodies formed a moving wall between her and the shots. The service corridor smelled of bleach-hot metal and hotel food. Kitchen workers pressed themselves against the walls as Adrian's men rushed past. Claire's wet shoes slipped once. Adrian caught her elbow but released it immediately after she recovered. That small act unsettled her more than the gunfire. He had listened. They reached the rear exit. Cold rain struck Claire's face as the door opened. An engine idled in the alley. A heavy vehicle waited nearby, its exhaust rolling through the wet air. Adrian guided her toward it. Claire stopped. "No," Grant cursed under his breath. Adrian turned toward her. "The people outside are trying to kill you, and you still haven't told me why. This is not the place. It is the only place I have." A bullet struck the brick wall at the end of the alley. One of Adrian's guards returned fire. Claire raised her cane between herself and Adrian. "You knew my name. You knew my instrument. You looked at me like I had climbed out of a grave." Rain ran down her face. "Who are you?" Adrian stood close enough that she could feel the heat of him through his coat around her shoulders. "My name is Adrian Cross." The city seemed to go silent. Claire knew the name. Everyone in Chicago knew it. Adrian Cross had never been convicted of a major crime, but his name appeared whenever warehouses burned. Witnesses vanished or city contracts changed hands overnight. Politicians denied knowing him. Judges avoided speaking about him. Reporters called him the Invisible King of Chicago. Claire's grip tightened around the cane. The Adrian Cross. Yes. The man the federal government has been trying to imprison for 12 years. Yes. And you expect me to get into your car. I don't expect you to trust me. Another engine turned into the alley. Headlights swept across the wet pavement. Adrian stepped between Claire and the approaching vehicle. "I expect you to understand that Victor Kane's men are inside your apartment right now." Claire forgot the rain. "What?" "They forced the rear door 9 minutes ago." "How do you know that?" "Because I have people watching the building. You have people watching my home." Adrian's silence answered before he did. The approaching vehicle accelerated. Grant opened the armored car door. "Boss." Adrian lowered his voice. "If you go home, they will not ask politely for what they want. They will tear apart your life, and when they are finished, they will tear apart you." Claire heard the certainty in his voice. Not a threat. A warning from someone who had seen it happen before. The headlights grew brighter. Adrian extended his hand. "Get in the car, Claire." She did not take his hand. She stepped into the vehicle on her own. The armored door closed just as bullets struck the exterior. The sound was duller from inside, like stones thrown against a steel wall. The car accelerated. Claire sat near the rear door with her cane across her lap. Her cello had been placed carefully beside her. Adrian sat opposite her. Grant occupied the front passenger seat, speaking into an encrypted phone. "Team 3, report." A voice answered through the speaker. "Apartment is clear. Intruders left through the fire stairs." They took paper files, photographs, and several folders of sheet music. Claire's hand moved instantly to the cello case. What sheet music? Grant glanced back. Anything handwritten. They ignored the printed scores. Claire looked toward Adrian. "My father's music was in that apartment." Adrian studied her face. Was there something hidden in it? No. The answer came too quickly. Adrian heard it. So did Grant. Neither man challenged her. Grant continued speaking into the phone. "Secure the building. Photograph everything. Do not touch the music room until we arrive." Claire turned toward the window. She could not see the city passing outside, but she could hear water racing beneath the tires. She counted turns. She felt changes in the road through the floor. Adrian watched her. "You're mapping the route. I map every route. You don't need to do that. I decide what I need." Grant looked down, hiding the beginning of a smile. Adrian leaned back. "Fair enough." Claire listened to the engine. They turned left, then right, then climbed a ramp. Where are you taking me to a secure residence? Yours? Yes. That is not reassuring. It is protected. So is a prison. Adrian's jaw tightened. You would rather return to your apartment. I would rather know why armed men destroyed it. The car grew quiet. Adrian poured water into a glass and placed it on the table between them. Claire did not reach for it. After a moment, Adrian spoke. Your father was not a financial analyst. Claire's fingers stopped moving across the cane handle. Yes, he was. That was the life he showed you. It was his life. No, it was his cover. Claire faced his voice. My father worked for an insurance company in Evanston. He wore cheap ties. He complained about office coffee. He brought home spreadsheets and fell asleep on the couch. He did all of that because he wanted you to believe it. You are lying. I wish I were. Adrian's voice had changed. The authority remained, but something heavier sat beneath it. Samuel Whitmore built the financial network that protected the Cross organization for almost 20 years. Claire stared toward him. The statement was absurd. Her father had driven a used sedan. He clipped grocery coupons. He forgot where he placed his reading glasses at least twice a week. He had once spent an entire Saturday trying to repair a leaking kitchen faucet because he refused to pay a plumber. He hated criminals, Claire said. He hated what criminal money did to people. That is not the same thing as working for them. No. Adrian did not defend it. Claire heard rain against the roof. Why would he do it? Because my father found him when he was young, brilliant and desperate. Samuel had a sick wife, a newborn daughter, and medical bills he could not pay. Claire's mother had died when Claire was 4. She remembered very little about her except a soft voice and the scent of lavender. Adrian continued. My father gave Samuel money. Samuel built him a system in return. By the time your father understood how deep he had gone, leaving was no longer simple. Claire swallowed. What system? Banks, property companies, shipping firms, charities, construction funds? Money moved through them until no one could remember where it began. You expect me to believe my father laundered money for you, for my family. That is not better. No. Again, Adrian accepted the blow. Claire pressed both hands around the cane. Why did Kane attack him? Adrian looked toward Grant. Grant lowered the privacy partition. The cabin became smaller, quieter. Adrian leaned forward. Victor Kane was once a partner and part of the network. Your father believed Kane was using it for things that went beyond gambling, smuggling, and corruption. Claire's mouth tightened. What things? Adrian waited too long. She understood. Say it. People, he said. Women. Children. Anyone Kane believed he could buy and sell. Claire's stomach turned. Samuel began cutting his access. He moved accounts, closed companies, redirected money. Kane demanded the master key. What master key? A complete map of the system. Every account, every name, every route money could travel. And my father refused. Yes. Claire heard pride in Adrian's voice. She hated him for it. He had no right to sound proud of Samuel. What happened next? Adrian's answer came slowly. Kane ordered your father killed. The words entered the car without sound. Claire felt the leather beneath her fingers, the steady vibration of the engine, the warm air moving from the vents. Everything remained normal. That was the cruelest part. My father died in a car accident. No. There was ice on the road. There was oil on the road. Kane's men spread it before Samuel reached the curve. Claire's breathing changed. Adrian noticed but did not touch her. A truck came from behind, he said. It pushed your father toward the guardrail. Claire's memory opened without permission. Tires screaming, her father shouting her name, the smell of burned rubber, his arm crossing her chest, the car turning sharply, glass exploding inward. She had spent years trying not to remember the sound that came after, her father's breath leaving him. Claire's hand began to shake. Adrian moved, then stopped himself. She heard the leather seat shift. "Your father saw the truck before it hit," he said. He turned the driver's side toward the impact. He took most of it. Claire's voice was barely there. "I was 13. Yes, I remember someone pulling me out." Adrian said nothing. Her face turned toward him. There was fire. "Yes, a man carried me." Grant looked away. Claire's heart began to pound. "You were there." Adrian's silence became an admission. She leaned forward. "You were there." "Yes." The word cut deeper than any bullet. Claire saw the night again through memory instead of sight. A man's voice close to her ear. "Stay with me." Strong arms lifting her from twisted metal. Rain or snow touching her face. Her own blood filling her mouth. She had believed that voice belonged to a paramedic. It belonged to Adrian Cross. "You pulled me out." "Yes." Why? Adrian stared at her. "Because you were alive. Why were you there? Samuel called me before the crash. He knew Kane's men were following him. Then why didn't you stop them?" The question struck the place he had spent 10 years protecting. Adrian looked away. "I was too late." Claire's voice hardened. "How late?" 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I reached the road after the truck had already hit. And Kane. He was there. Claire went still. Victor Kane was at the crash. He wanted to search the car himself. For the master key. "Yes." Claire pressed one hand to her mouth. "Did he see me?" "He thought you were dead. The vehicle was burning. I carried you down the embankment before his men reached the passenger side." "Then why did you disappear?" "Because the hospital was filled with police reporters and Kane's informants. If anyone learned you survived, they would have returned. So you erased me. I changed your medical records, moved you to a private wing, arranged a new address after you were released. You let me believe my father died because of bad weather. I kept you alive." Claire turned toward him with tears gathering in eyes that could no longer see. "You kept me ignorant." Adrian did not answer. There was no answer that could save him. Claire wiped her face angrily. "Who raised me after the hospital?" "Your aunt. She said the insurance settlement paid for everything." "It did not." A cold understanding spread through Claire. The private school that accepted her after other schools claimed they lacked resources. The specialist in Boston. The experimental treatment in Baltimore. The scholarship that arrived days before she planned to abandon the conservatory. The anonymous donor who paid for her first professional cello. "No," she whispered. Adrian remained still. "The scholarship," she said. "Mine. The surgery. Mine. The apartment. A trust controlled by my attorney." Claire's breath caught. "The security guard who appeared after late rehearsals. My man. The driver who always seemed to be outside the concert hall. Also mine." Claire laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "You watched me. I protected you. For 10 years. Yes, every rehearsal numb. Every performance." Adrian hesitated. "Most of them." Claire turned her face away. "You knew where I lived. You knew where I studied. You knew my doctors. You knew the instrument I carried tonight." "Yes, and you never once thought I deserved the truth. I thought the truth would bring you back into this world. You were already in my world." The words left Adrian silent. Claire reached for the water at last. Her hand found the glass without help. She drank slowly. Adrian watched her as though every movement carried a judgment. "Did my father ask you to protect me?" she asked. "Yes." "When?" "The night before he died." What exactly did he say? Adrian's eyes lowered. He said Kane would come for the key. He said if anything happened to him, I had to make sure you lived far away from our world. That sounds like my father. He also said you would hate me if you ever learned the truth. Claire placed the glass down. He knew me well. A faint breath of something almost human passed through Adrian. It was not a laugh. It was pain. The car slowed. Grant raised the partition. We are entering the garage. Claire heard heavy gates opening. The vehicle drove downward. Sound changed around them. Concrete walls trapped the engine noise and returned it in low echoes. A second gate closed behind the car. Then a third. Claire listened carefully. 3 security barriers. Adrian nodded before remembering she could not see. Yes. Underground. Yes. How many guards enough? That is not a number. Grant answered from the front. 12 inside the building, 8 around the garage, 4 on the private floor. Claire turned toward him. Thank you. Adrian gave Grant a look. Grant shrugged. She asked for a number. The car stopped. A guard opened the rear door. Cold air entered the cabin. Adrian stepped out first. He offered his hand. Claire ignored it and reached for her cello. Adrian picked up the case. She immediately turned toward him. Put it down. It is heavy. It is mine. Something in her voice made the guard nearest them step back. Adrian lowered the case to the ground. Claire found the handle and lifted it herself. He did not argue. They crossed the garage toward a private elevator. Claire counted the steps. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Inside, Adrian placed his thumb against a scanner. A second device read his eyes. Claire heard the system unlock. Biometric access, she said. Yes, and if the power fails, backup generators. If those fail, manual lockdown? Claire faced him. You built a fortress. I inherited enemies. That does not answer me. Adrian looked at her. I built it after your father died. The elevator rose. Claire felt the pressure change in her ears. They traveled for a long time. When the doors opened, warm air touched her face. The space beyond was enormous. She could tell by the length of the echoes. Her cane found polished stone. She swept it carefully. The room smelled of cedar coffee and faint smoke from a fireplace. Floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across one wall, though Claire could only feel the cold radiating from the glass. Adrian set his weapon on a nearby table. You are safe here. Claire stepped inside. The elevator doors closed behind her. Locks engaged, one after another. She listened until the final bolt settled into place. To you, this is safety, she said. Adrian removed his wet jacket. What is it to you? Claire tapped her cane against the marble. The sound traveled through the beautiful room and returned empty. A room with no unlocked door. Adrian's voice softened. I will not keep you here longer than necessary. Who decides what is necessary? He did not answer immediately. Claire turned toward him. That is what I thought. Grant entered behind them and placed a phone on the table. It is clean. No tracking software. No restricted contacts. Adrian looked at him. Grant remained expressionless. Claire approached the table. She did not touch the phone. I have conditions. Adrian folded his arms. Tell me. No one enters my room without announcing themselves. Agreed. No one touches me without warning. Agreed. My cello stays with me. Yes. I receive every piece of information connected to the threat against me. Adrian hesitated. Claire heard it. Every piece. Yes. And I keep the phone. Grant answered before Adrian could. Yes. Adrian looked at him again. Grant said, she is already inside the most secure residence in Chicago. The phone is not the weak point. Claire almost smiled. Adrian exhaled. You keep the phone. She reached for it. Good. A woman from the household staff led Claire toward a guest room. Claire refused help with her cello. Before she left the main room, Adrian spoke. Claire. She stopped. The men at your apartment were not searching randomly. Her hand tightened around the case handle. They were looking for Samuel's master ledger. "I told you I do not know anything about it." "I believe you." "No, you do not." Adrian's voice remained calm. "I believe you do not have a book." Claire stood motionless. Grant watched both of them. Adrian continued. "Your father did not trust paper. He did not trust computers. He believed anything written could be stolen." Claire faced him. "What are you saying?" "I am saying Cain believes Samuel left the key with you. I was a child. You were his only child. He never talked to me about banks. Then perhaps he hid it inside something you would remember." The room became very quiet. Claire thought of the handwritten music stolen from her apartment. She thought of her father sitting beside her piano when she was small, correcting the same 8 notes again and again. "Not until you can hear the numbers, Claire." She had always believed he was joking. Adrian stepped closer but kept his distance. "Did Samuel ever give you anything before the crash?" Claire held his question between them. Then she turned away. "No." She walked toward the guest room without another word. Hours later, the penthouse had fallen silent. Rain tapped against the windows. Somewhere deep inside the building, an elevator motor hummed and stopped. Claire sat alone beside the glass wall with her cello between her knees. She opened an old leather folder hidden beneath the case lining. Inside rested a handwritten score. "The Lake Nocturne," her father's final composition. Claire placed her fingers on the strings. The first note entered the room softly, then the second, then 6 more. The melody was simple enough to sound innocent. Inside Claire's memory, the notes became something else. 4, 7, 1, 9, 0, 3, 2, 6. She stopped playing. Her bow remained suspended above the strings. "You were right, Dad," she whispered. They finally came. Outside the half-open door, Adrian Cross stood in complete silence. He had not heard the numbers hidden inside the music, but he had heard enough to know Claire Whitmore had been waiting for this night. Adrian remained outside the half-open door long after Claire lowered her bow. The final note seemed to hang in the dark, trembling against the glass walls of the penthouse before disappearing into the city below. Claire did not turn toward him. "You can come in," she said. Adrian stepped through the doorway. "I announced myself badly." "You did not announce yourself at all. You knew I was there. I heard you stop breathing." He closed the door softly behind him, but left it slightly open, honoring the rule she had set only hours earlier. Claire rested the bow across her lap. "How much did you hear?" "Enough to know you lied to me." Her fingers tightened around the wood. "You asked whether my father gave me a ledger. I asked whether he gave you anything. And I said no. You are holding his composition. That is music." Adrian looked at the handwritten pages resting beside her. "Your father never treated music as only music." Claire's expression remained still. "You knew him as an accountant. I knew him as the man who could hide $1 million inside a decimal point and make 3 governments swear it had never existed. That does not mean every note he wrote contains a secret." "No." Adrian moved closer to the cello but stopped several feet away. "It means I have learned not to dismiss anything Samuel Whitmore created." Claire raised the bow again and played the opening phrase. 8 notes, soft, measured, almost childlike. Adrian listened. "What do you hear?" she asked. "A melody." "Exactly." She played it once more. "What do you hear now?" "The same melody." Claire lowered the bow. "Then perhaps my father chose well." Adrian studied her face. "You know something. I know that men searched my apartment and stole pieces of music written by a dead man. And that does not frighten you. It terrifies me." Her voice stayed controlled, but Adrian saw the truth in the rigid line of her shoulders. Fear and helplessness are not the same thing. He absorbed the correction. Claire placed the score back inside the leather folder. I want to sleep. Adrian nodded. He reached for the door. Adrian. He stopped. If you stand outside my room tonight, I will hear you. I was not planning to. You were. A faint expression touched his face. You are difficult to protect. You are difficult to trust. He left without answering. Claire waited until his footsteps disappeared across the marble floor. Then she counted to 100. Only after the penthouse had settled into silence did she open the folder again. Her fingers traced the indentations her father's pen had left in the paper. She could no longer read the notes with her eyes, but she did not need to. The entire composition lived inside her. Every pause, every change in tempo, every mark Samuel had insisted she memorize before the crash. She had been 12 when he first taught it to her. He had sat beside her at their old piano with a cup of coffee growing cold between his hands. Again, Claire. She had groaned. Dad, I already know it. No, you know the sound. I want you to know what it means. She had laughed because she thought he was being dramatic. Samuel had not laughed. Someday someone may try to take the page from you. Never let them take the music. At 13, she believed her father was talking about art. At 27, she understood he had been preparing her to carry something no safe could protect. Claire closed the folder. Outside her room, a man crossed the hallway. The steps were slow and deliberate. Not Adrian. Adrian's stride was longer. His right shoe landed more heavily than his left, perhaps because of an old injury he tried to hide. These steps were softer, controlled. A piece of peppermint gum cracked between someone's teeth. Owen Price. Claire waited until his footsteps passed. Then she lay back against the pillows and listened to the room breathe. Morning arrived beneath a pale Chicago sky. Claire knew the storm had ended because the windows no longer shook. Traffic moved far below in long, steady waves. Somewhere to the east, a ship horn sounded across the lake. She dressed without help and left the guest room with her cane in one hand and her cello case in the other. The penthouse was already awake. Coffee brewed in the kitchen. A pan hissed over flame. Guards changed positions near the elevator. Claire listened to each voice. Grant was speaking quietly into a phone. Owen stood near the entrance. Adrian was not in the room. A woman approached. Good morning, Miss Whitmore. I'm Evelyn. Breakfast is ready whenever you would like it. Thank you. Where is Adrian Grant? Ended his call. In his office. Is he hiding from me? No, Grant said. He is trying not to interrogate you before you have coffee. Claire turned toward him. That sounds almost considerate. It is a recent condition. Owen laughed softly near the elevator. Claire recognized the peppermint before he spoke. Mr. Cross has not been himself since you arrived. Grant's tone cooled. That is enough, Owen. I meant no disrespect. Owen sounded relaxed. His breathing said otherwise. Claire carried her cello toward the living room. Owen stepped forward. Let me take that. No, it is only a case. It contains an instrument worth more than most houses. His shoes stopped less than 2 feet from her. So I have heard. Claire angled her face toward him. From whom? A small pause. Mr. Cross. Adrian's office door opened at the far end of the room. He heard it from me, Adrian said. Owen stepped back. Claire heard the tension leave his lungs. It was a tiny change. Most people would never have noticed it. Claire did. Adrian crossed the room. He had changed into a clean shirt and dark trousers. His voice sounded tired. You slept for part of the night. You for part of the week. Grant handed Adrian a tablet. The men from her apartment abandoned their vehicle near Cicero. No bodies. No weapons. Kane is cleaning his trail. Adrian looked at Claire. We recovered most of your belongings. Most. The handwritten music is gone. Claire set the cello case beside a chair. Then he found what he came for. Adrian watched her carefully. You said it was only music. I said men stole it. That makes it valuable to them. Grant moved closer. Do you know why Claire opened the case and inspected the instrument by touch? No, it was another lie. This one came more smoothly. Adrian heard it again, but did not challenge her in front of the others. Instead, he turned to Owen. Double the guards on this floor. Owen nodded. The exterior team is already in place. Replace the west stairwell unit. They were assigned this morning. Replace them anyway. Owen's jaw tightened. Claire heard the slight movement. Is there a problem? Adrian asked. No, boss. Good. Owen walked toward the elevator. His peppermint gum cracked once before the doors closed. Claire waited. Then she asked, How long has he worked for you? Grant looked toward the elevator. Owen. Yes. 12 years. Do you trust him? Grant answered first. I trust no one completely. Adrian looked at him. Grant shrugged. You taught me. Claire ran her fingers along the cello bridge. Owen is afraid of something. Adrian's attention sharpened. Why do you say that? His breathing changes when Cain is mentioned. That could be anger. He chews peppermint gum when he wants to hide the smell of tobacco. Grant frowned. Smoking is prohibited in the building. He smoked before he came upstairs. Adrian looked at Grant. Grant was already reaching for his phone. Claire closed the cello case. Do not accuse him because I noticed nervous breathing. No one is accusing him. You are investigating him. Yes. Quietly, Grant opened the office door. Always. He disappeared inside. Adrian remained beside Claire. You see more than most people. She stood. I do not see anything. You know what I mean. I know what people usually mean. She lifted the cello case. Adrian did not offer to carry it this time. He walked beside her as she crossed the room. What do people usually mean? That blindness must have given me magical hearing. It did not. I simply had to learn what everyone else ignores. She stopped near the windows. People announce themselves constantly. Shoes, breath, jewelry, the way they touch furniture, the way they become quiet when they lie. Adrian leaned against the glass. What announces me, Claire considered him. You stop moving when you are angry. He looked down at his hands. Most men move more. Most men are not afraid of what happens when they lose control. Adrian said nothing. Claire turned toward the lake. Cold rose from the window. You also touch the inside of your left wrist when you feel guilty. His hand dropped from that exact place. Claire almost smiled. Anything else? You have not slept because Cain reached my home. I have not slept because Cain reached the hotel. That is not the same thing. No. The answer was quiet. Claire's fingers tightened around the cane. You cannot burn Chicago down every time someone comes near me. I can try. Do you hear yourself? I hear myself clearly. You say things like that as though destruction is devotion. Adrian moved away from the window. In my world, sometimes it is. In mine, it is still destruction. He stood close, but did not touch her. What would you have me do? Tell me the truth. I have, some of it. Then ask. Claire faced him fully. Did my father blame you before he died? Adrian's expression hardened, not with anger, but with memory. He did not have time. That is not an answer. Adrian looked toward the city. Samuel warned me that Cain had found one of the shell companies. I thought we could contain it. You were wrong. Yes. You left him exposed. Yes. The honesty struck harder than denial. Claire's voice lowered. Why? because moving him would have told Kane he mattered. He did matter. I know. You knew then. Adrian's jaw tightened. I knew he mattered to me. I did not understand how much he mattered to Kane. Claire heard the strain in every word. So your mistake killed him. Yes. The room seemed to narrow. Adrian did not make excuses. That made it more difficult to hate him cleanly. My father trusted you, she said. He trusted who I might become. Are you that man? Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Not yet. Claire turned away. The answer stayed with her through the rest of the morning. At noon, Adrian joined her for lunch at a long dining table large enough for 20 guests. Only 2 places had been set. Claire touched the edge of the plate. This room is ridiculous. It belonged to my father. That explains it. Adrian poured water into her glass. What does that mean? It means a man who needs 20 chairs at lunch is either very lonely or very afraid of empty space. Adrian sat across from her. My father was both. The chef had prepared roasted chicken, vegetables, and bread still warm from the oven. Claire took one bite. This is excellent. I will tell him. You employ a private chef? Yes. Of course you do. Adrian heard the judgment. You disapprove of food. Now I disapprove of excess pretending to be necessity. You play an instrument worth nearly $1 million. I did not buy it. No, I did. Claire set down her fork. The silence between them sharpened. Adrian's face changed immediately. I should not have said that. But it is true. Yes. My first professional cello came from an anonymous foundation. Yes, you chose it. Your teacher selected 3. I paid for the one she believed would suit you. Claire's hand rested on the table. Was any part of my life mine? The question stripped the room of everything luxurious. Adrian spoke carefully. Your talent was yours. My work was mine. Yes, my decisions, most of them. Most. I never chose what you played, where you performed, who you loved. Claire's mouth tightened. You know there was no one. Adrian realized his mistake. You investigated that too. I made sure no one near you worked for Kane. That is not what I asked. He could not answer without making it worse. Claire stood. The chair scraped the floor. I need air. The balcony is secure. I do not want a secure balcony. I want a sidewalk. You cannot leave. Her expression turned cold. There it is, Claire. You can soften your voice. You can give me a phone. You can pretend these doors are here for my comfort. But when I ask to leave, the answer is still no. Kane's men fired into a hotel to reach you, and you decided that gives you authority over my body. I decided it gives me a responsibility. You are confusing responsibility with ownership. The word landed between them. Adrian stood slowly. I do not own you. Then open the elevator. No, Claire laughed bitterly. Thank you for proving my point. She walked away from the table. Adrian did not follow. That evening, Claire played in the living room. She chose a dark, restless sonata filled with sharp changes and unresolved phrases. Adrian sat across the room. He had not asked permission. He had simply entered, announced himself, and remained silent. Claire stopped halfway through the second movement. You are listening too loudly. I have not spoken. You do not need to. He rested his elbows on his knees. Should I leave? Claire considered it. No, she began again. The music softened. Outside, Chicago glowed beneath the clouds. Traffic moved along Lakeshore Drive like a stream of distant stars Claire could no longer see. When the final note faded, Adrian spoke. My mother played piano. Claire lowered the bow. You never mentioned her. You never asked. What happened to her? She died when I was 8. I am sorry. My father removed every photograph of her from the house within a week. Why he believed grief made men weak. Claire touched the cello strings. Did it? It made him cruel. And you? Adrian looked toward her. It made me careful. Those are not opposites. No. Claire waited. Adrian continued. Samuel was the first person in my father's organization who spoke to me as though I was still a child. What did he say? He told me I did not have to become my father. Claire smiled faintly. That sounds like him. I told him he did not understand how families like mine worked. What did he say? He said every system is built by people, which means people can change it. Claire's fingers stilled. The phrase felt familiar. Samuel had said similar things when teaching her music. A pattern is never a prison, Claire. Change one note and the whole piece must answer. Adrian watched her. What are you thinking that my father believed in impossible things? He believed in preparation. That too. A soft chime sounded near the elevator. Owen entered, carrying a folder. Mr. Cross, we have movement near the Calumet Yards. Adrian rose. What kind Kane's people intercepted a shipment near the river? 3 of our trucks are trapped inside Warehouse 14. Grant is on the secure line. Adrian walked toward the office. Claire listened to Owen. His breath was faster than usual. Peppermint covered the smell of smoke again. Adrian returned moments later with Grant beside him. Grant held a phone against his ear. They have at least 20 men around the building. 2 of ours are dead. 6 more are pinned inside. Adrian reached for the pistol lying on the side table. Claire stood. You are leaving. I have to. Why my men need me? Grant looked at Adrian. It may be a diversion. It probably is. Then send another team. If I stay here while they die, every captain under me learns that Kane can make me hide. Claire heard the truth beneath the words. Your pride is going. Adrian checked the magazine. My responsibility is going. Both, she said. He looked at her. After a moment, he nodded. Both. Owen stepped forward. I will remain with Miss Whitmore. Claire felt the room change. The offer came too quickly. Adrian looked at Owen. Grant did too. Owen continued calmly. The building is sealed. The interior team is in place. I know the security system better than anyone except Grant. Claire heard his knee click as he shifted his weight. A small old injury. She stored the sound. Adrian approached her. I will be gone less than 2 hours. You do not know that? No. Do not promise what you cannot control. His voice softened. I will return as soon as I can. He placed a small device on the table beside her hand. Emergency transmitter. Press the center once. What happens? Every crossman in the building comes to this floor. Claire picked it up. And if one of your men is the danger. Silence followed. Adrian looked toward Owen. Owen's breathing did not change. That was the problem. It was too controlled. Grant received another call. His expression darkened. We are losing the south entrance. Adrian turned to Owen. No one enters this room. No one touches her. If the cameras fail, you call me before you breathe. Owen nodded. Understood. Adrian looked back at Claire. For 1 second, the most feared man in Chicago appeared reluctant to leave a room. Claire felt his hand move near hers. He stopped before touching her. Claire. I know. He left with Grant and 4 guards. The elevator doors closed, locks engaged. The penthouse became quiet. Claire remained beside the cello. Owen stood near the main entrance. 2 other guards moved through the hallway. One spoke into a radio. Another checked the windows. 5 minutes passed. Owen answered a phone call. West Hall needs assistance. Possible breach near the service elevator. The two guards left. Claire listened as their footsteps disappeared. The elevator did not open. There was no breach alarm. Owen returned to the living room. The piece of peppermint gum shifted between his teeth. Claire rested both hands on the cello. "Is something wrong?" "No, Miss Whitmore." His voice had changed. The respect was gone. A small electronic click sounded above her. The nearest security camera stopped moving. Another click followed. Then another. The emergency transmitter in Claire's hand vibrated once and went dead. She pressed the center. Nothing happened. Owen removed the gum from his mouth and placed it on the edge of a glass. The sharp scent of tobacco remained beneath his cologne. Claire lowered her head and allowed her shoulders to tremble. Owen took one step toward her. His left knee clicked. Then Claire heard the slow metallic turn of a suppressor being attached to a pistol. "You've made a very powerful man, remarkably stupid," Owen said. Claire let her breathing grow shallow. She counted the distance between them. 7 steps. 6. 5. Her cane rested beside the cello chair. Owen moved closer. Claire curled her fingers around the bow and waited. Owen stopped 4 steps away. The suppressor had changed the balance of his pistol. She could hear the faint scrape of metal against his sleeve as he lowered the weapon beside his leg. He wanted her afraid. More than that, he wanted her to understand that no one was coming. "You disabled the transmitter," Claire said. Owen gave a quiet laugh. "You noticed. It stopped vibrating. I thought Cross gave you something more sophisticated. He believed the building was secure. He believes many things when you are involved." Claire kept her head lowered. The bow trembled lightly between her fingers. Owen mistook the movement for fear. "Where are the other guards?" she asked. "Busy chasing a threat that does not exist. You sent them away. I sent them exactly where their orders told them to go." "Your orders. Adrian's according to the system." Owen moved another step closer. His left knee clicked. 3 steps. Claire allowed her breathing to become uneven. "How did you change the security orders? The same way every fortress falls." "Not through the walls. Through the men trusted to guard them." He sounded proud. That made him careless. Claire turned her face slightly toward him. "The attack near the river is a trap. It is real enough to keep Adrian occupied. People are dying. People always die when powerful men need convincing." His words carried no regret. Claire felt the cello beneath her left hand. The polished wood was warm from the room. Her cane rested against the chair, the handle angled toward her right knee. Owen was still too far away. She needed him closer. "Victor Kane paid you," she said. Owen paused. The name settled between them. Claire heard a faint breath leave him. Not surprise. Satisfaction. $5 million, he said. A house in Arizona. Control of every route south of Roosevelt Road. You sold 12 years of loyalty for money and territory. I sold 12 years of watching Adrian inherit everything men like me built for him. His voice sharpened. He was born into power. Men died to protect his name before he was old enough to hold a gun. Then you walked into a hotel and suddenly the entire organization bends around one blind musician. Claire raised her chin. You are angry because he protected me. I am angry because he forgot what weakness costs. Caring about someone is weakness. For men like Adrian, yes. Owen took another step. 2 steps now. Claire could feel the heat of his body. He smelled of tobacco, damp wool, and peppermint. You think I made him weak, she said. I think you made him predictable. And Victor Kane believes predictable men are easy to kill. Owen smiled. You understand more than Adrian gives you credit for. That does not appear difficult. The smile vanished from his voice. Careful. Claire let the bow slip from her fingers. It struck the rug with a soft thud. She flinched and reached toward the floor. Owen did not move. He was watching. She could feel the direction of his attention in the stillness. "You said Victor wants something from me," Claire whispered. "The master key. I do not know what that is. Your father built a financial system that could move money through 6 countries before breakfast. He created accounts no government agency has ever found. My father is dead. His work is not." Claire leaned forward as though searching for the fallen bow. Her right hand moved closer to the cane. Owen shifted the pistol. The faint movement told her the barrel was now aimed at her chest. "Do not reach for that." Claire froze. "My cane. You are not leaving. I was trying to find my bow. Use your left hand." She obeyed. Her fingertips brushed the rug. Owen was cautious. Not cautious enough. "You searched my apartment," Claire said. "Victor's people searched it. They took the handwritten scores. They found copies. Nothing more. So you came here." "I came here because Samuel Whitmore did not trust paper." Owen stepped closer and grabbed Claire's shoulder. His fingers dug into the muscle beneath her collarbone. "He trusted you." Claire gasped. The sound was real. His grip hurt. "You were 13 when he died." Owen continued, "Old enough to remember. Young enough for everyone to assume you understood nothing. I did not understand anything. Then why did your father spend a year teaching you the same composition?" Claire went still. Owen felt it. His grip tightened. "There it is," he said softly. "That little pause. Adrian never notices it because he is too busy admiring you." Claire turned her face away. "I do not know what you mean." "The Lake Nocturne." The title sounded obscene in his mouth. Owen bent closer. "Victor has 3 versions of the score. None of them match. Measures change. Notes repeat in different places. Your father was not composing music. He was hiding numbers." Claire let fear enter her voice. "I was a child, and children remember songs." He released her shoulder and took a handful of her hair. Pain burned across her scalp as he pulled her head back. Claire cried out. Owen lowered his mouth near her ear. "Tell me how to read it." "I cannot." "You can. I do not know what the notes mean." His pistol touched the side of her neck. The suppressor was cold. Owen spoke gently now. That gentleness was worse than shouting. "You earn your living with your hands." Claire's fingers curled against the rug. "You have beautiful hands. Strong. Precise. Expensive." The barrel moved from her neck to her right index finger. "I wonder how many bones I would have to break before you stopped lying." Claire's breath caught. Owen waited. She imagined giving him what he wanted. Not the real sequence, something close enough to sound convincing. But Victor would test it. When it failed, Mara might die. Adrian's men might die. Owen would return to her hands. She needed control of the room before he understood what she was doing. "Please," Claire said. The word shook. Owen loosened his grip slightly. "Then help yourself." "My cello case." "What about it?" "There is a pocket beneath the lining." His breathing changed. "What is inside?" "A leather folder." "I saw the folder. There is another compartment." Owen released her hair. Claire folded forward, one hand pressing against her scalp. "Open it," he ordered. "I need my cane." "No. I need to cross the room. You are 3 feet from the case. The table is between us." Owen looked toward the glass table. Claire heard the subtle movement of his coat as he turned his head. She had mapped the room earlier. The table stood 2 steps to her left. The cello case rested beside the chair less than an arm's length from her right hand. Owen believed she was confused. That was useful. He kicked the cane away. It slid across the marble and struck the base of the piano. Too far. Claire did not react. Instead, she reached for the cello case. Her fingers found the handle. She opened the latches slowly. 1, 2, 3. The lid rose. The familiar scent of varnished maple reached her. Owen stood behind her left shoulder. His breathing was almost calm. The pistol remained close. Claire moved her hand beneath the instrument. "There is nothing there," Owen said. "Under the lining." She pressed her thumb into a hidden seam. The leather lifted. Owen leaned closer. Claire heard the fabric of his trousers brush the edge of the case. He had entered her reach. She drew out the old folder and held it toward him. Owen grabbed it with his left hand. His right still held the pistol. He stepped back and opened the folder. Claire lowered her hand to the floor. The emergency transmitter rested beneath the glass table where she had dropped it earlier. It no longer worked, but its metal casing had weight. Her fingers closed around it. Owen turned a page. "This is the same score." "No," Claire whispered. He looked down at her. "It is. The final movement is written beneath the first." Owen crouched. "How heat?" He leaned toward the page. Claire threw the transmitter against the opposite wall. It struck a bronze sculpture with a sharp crack. Owen turned toward the sound. Claire moved. She rose from the floor and drove the base of her palm beneath his jaw. His teeth snapped together. The pistol fired. The muted shot punched into the ceiling. Owen staggered. Claire caught his right wrist with both hands and twisted it toward his thumb. He swore and drove his shoulder into her. They crashed against the edge of the piano. Pain exploded through Claire's ribs. She lost her grip. Owen struck her across the face with the back of his hand. The force sent her to the floor. For a moment, sound collapsed into a high, ringing tone. She tasted blood. Owen coughed nearby. His shoes scraped the rug. Stupid girl. Claire rolled as another quiet shot struck the floor where her chest had been. Marble fragments cut her cheek. She crawled toward the piano. The cane lay near the front leg. Owen crossed the room. His left knee clicked. One step, then another. Claire reached out. Her fingers closed around the rubber handle. Owen grabbed the back of her dress and pulled her upward. She turned inside his reach. Her thumb found the recessed switch beneath the grip. A short blade slid from the lower shaft with a clean, metallic sound. Owen stopped. For the first time that night, his breathing lost control. "What is that?" Claire straightened. Blood warmed the corner of her mouth. "My father's idea of insurance." Owen laughed through the sound-carried doubt. "Samuel gave a blind child a blade. He gave his daughter a chance." Owen raised the pistol. Claire listened. The weapon was slightly to the right of his chest. His injured jaw changed the rhythm of his breathing. His weight favored the right leg. The old weakness remained in the left knee. He fired. Claire moved at the change in his inhale, not the sound of the shot. The bullet passed close enough to disturb her hair. She stepped inside his arm and drove the reinforced cane against his wrist. The pistol fell. Owen caught her throat with his left hand and slammed her into the piano. The blade cut across his forearm. He shouted and released her. Claire struck the damaged knee. Bone met carbon fiber. Owen collapsed onto one leg. She brought the handle down against his temple. He fell across the rug. Claire stepped back, breathing hard. Her ribs burned. Blood ran from her lower lip. The room had not become silent. Owen was still moving. His right hand dragged across the rug toward the fallen pistol. Claire heard his fingernails scrape the marble beyond the carpet. She kicked the weapon away. It slid beneath the glass table. Owen lunged at her legs. His shoulder struck her hip. Claire fell. The cane left her hand. He climbed over her one hand, closing around her throat. "You should have stayed helpless." Claire clawed at his wrist. Pressure built behind her eyes. Owen leaned closer. "Adrian would have mourned you. Then Victor would have killed him." Claire forced herself to stop struggling. Owen felt her body weaken. His grip relaxed just enough. She drove both thumbs into the wound across his forearm. He screamed. Claire twisted free, found the cane, and rolled to her knees. Owen tried to rise. She swept his injured leg from beneath him. He struck the floor on his back. Air left his lungs. Before he could recover, Claire placed one knee against his chest and set the blade beneath his jaw. "Move again," she said, "and you will open your own throat." Owen froze. The frightened musician was gone from her voice. Something colder had replaced her. He stared up at her sightless eyes. "You have done this before. I have survived before. Who trained you?" My father began. Samuel was an accountant. Samuel was a man hunted by people who believed violence made them intelligent. Claire pressed the blade closer. A small bead of blood formed beneath Owen's jaw. He knew someone would come for me eventually. Owen's breath came fast. "You lied to everyone. I allowed people to believe what made them careless. Adrian thinks you are innocent. I am not responsible for Adrian's imagination." Owen tried to shift. The blade touched him again. He stopped. Claire turned her head toward the silent cameras. "How long until Victor's men arrive?" Owen said nothing. She lowered the blade enough to cut the skin. He hissed. "How long?" 20 minutes. "Where private garage?" "How many 6? "Is Victor with them?" "No." "Where is he? I do not know." Claire listened to his heartbeat through the contact between her knee and his chest. It accelerated. A lie. "You know something. He changes locations every night." "That is not what I asked." Owen swallowed carefully. "He is using old properties near the lake. Which property I do not know." Claire shifted the blade. Owen spoke quickly. "Halstead Music Hall." The name struck her. The concert hall had closed years ago after a fire destroyed part of the roof. Claire had performed there once as a child. Her father had sat in the front row. "Why a concert hall?" Owen gave a weak laugh. "Maybe he has a sense of humor." Claire ignored him. "Call off the men in the garage." "I cannot." "Then unlock the system." Victor changed the access codes. "You helped him." "I gave him the architecture. His people rewrote the controls." Claire reached toward the pocket inside Owen's coat. He stiffened. She found his phone and removed it. The device required a fingerprint. She caught his left hand. "No." Claire pressed his thumb to the screen. The phone unlocked. Messages filled the device, but she could not read them. She activated the voice assistant. Owen tried to shout. Claire placed the blade against his throat. "Make a sound louder than necessary." He closed his mouth. She instructed the phone to read the latest messages aloud. A mechanical voice spoke into the room. "Garage team in position. Cross convoy engaged at river. Await confirmation before entry." Then another message. "Kane requests the girl alive. Damage to hands permitted only if she refuses sequence." Claire's jaw tightened. Owen heard it. "He knows what you are." "No," she said. "He knows what my father made." "What is the sequence?" Claire turned toward him. "You still think it is a number? What else would it be? A composition?" "The Lake Nocturne. That is only the container." Owen stared at her. Claire continued. "The ledger was never written in columns. My father encoded the entire financial structure into music." Owen's expression changed from pain to disbelief. "Account numbers cannot become music. Anything ordered can become a pattern." She kept the blade steady. "Intervals represent digits. Changes in tempo divide account classes. Key signatures identify jurisdictions. Repeated phrases point to companies that share the same beneficial owner." Owen's mouth opened slightly. Claire heard his breath catch. "The final movement contains the access path. You memorized it." "Yes." How much? All of it. That is impossible. My father repeated the piece every morning for a year. He made me play it backward. He changed the rhythm and asked me to correct him. He stopped in the middle of measures and made me continue from memory. You were 13. I was his only safe place. Owen stared at her as though she had transformed in front of him. You have every Cross account in your head, and every Kane account connected to the same network. You could empty them. I could expose them. You could control both organizations. Claire's expression hardened. Money is not control. Men like you are simply willing to kill for the illusion that it is. Owen laughed once. You sound like Samuel. I hope so. You think Adrian will let you walk away with that knowledge? Claire said nothing. Owen seized on the silence. He watched you for 10 years. He paid for your life. He built this place around you before you knew it existed. That is not protection. That is collection. The words struck a wound Claire already carried. She did not let him hear it. Adrian and I will settle our debts without your help. Owen's smile returned faintly. He will lock you in a deeper room. Then he will learn what happened to the last man who mistook me for a prisoner. The private elevator chimed. Claire turned her head. Owen smiled beneath the blade. Too late. Heavy footsteps entered the outer corridor. More than one man. Claire listened. 4 sets. One was Grant's measured stride. Another was Adrian's uneven step heavier on the right. No one spoke. The doors to the penthouse burst open. Adrian entered with his pistol raised. His shirt was stained with blood. Rain darkened his hair. Grant followed with 3 armed guards. They swept the room. Then everyone stopped. Owen lay on his back across the rug, blood running from his arm and jaw. Claire knelt above him. Her dress was torn at the shoulder. A bruise darkened one side of her face. Blood marked her lip. The blade beneath Owen's throat did not shake. Adrian lowered his weapon by an inch. For the first time since Claire had met him, he looked incapable of speech. Grant stared at Owen, then at Claire, then at the disabled cameras. Owen, he said quietly. Owen closed his eyes. Claire turned her face toward Adrian. He sold your security system to Victor Kane. Adrian's shock disappeared. What replaced it made the guards step farther into the room. How much? Adrian asked. 5 million, Claire said. Control of the southern routes. Victor has 6 men waiting in the private garage. Grant immediately raised his radio. Lock down the lower levels. Use the mechanical controls. No elevators. One of the guards ran toward the security room. Adrian kept his eyes on Owen. The river attack. A diversion, Claire said. Real enough to kill your men. False enough to pull you away. Adrian walked closer. Owen tried to speak. Boss, she is lying. Claire pressed the blade slightly deeper. Owen went silent. Adrian stopped beside them. His gaze moved over Claire's injuries. The muscles in his face became still. Too still. Claire recognized the sign. He was furious. Did he touch your hands? Adrian asked. My hands are fine. That was not my question. He threatened them. Adrian looked down at Owen. The hatred in his eyes carried no heat. It was colder than rage. Grant approached. We need him alive. For now, Adrian said. 2 guards pulled Owen upright. Claire withdrew the blade. Owen nearly collapsed when his injured knee took weight. Adrian caught him by the front of his shirt. You stood in my house. Owen struggled to breathe. Adrian, you ate at my table. Listen to me. I trusted you with her. Owen's eyes moved toward Claire. That was his final mistake. Adrian struck him once. The blow dropped Owen into the guard's arms. Take him downstairs, Adrian said. Keep him conscious. Grant nodded. I want every name, every access code, every account Victor used to pay him. Owen was dragged toward the hallway. Before he disappeared, he looked back at Claire. You think you won? Claire stood beside her cello. No, she said. "I think you talk too much." The guards removed him. Grant followed, already giving orders into his radio. The room emptied until only Adrian and Claire remained. The silence after violence felt unnatural. Claire retracted the blade into the cane. The metallic click echoed across the penthouse. Adrian looked at the weapon, then at her. "You knew how to use that. Yes. You knew how to fight. Yes. You knew Owen was lying. I suspected him. You knew Kane wanted the music." Claire wiped blood from her mouth with the back of her hand. "Yes." Adrian stared at her. The woman before him was injured and exhausted, but there was nothing helpless in the way she stood. His voice lowered. "You knew much more than you told me." Claire faced him. "So did you." Adrian took one step closer. "You let me believe I was protecting you. You were protecting me. That is not what I mean." "I know." His hands opened and closed at his sides. "You could have told me. And trusted you with the only thing keeping me alive. I pulled you from a burning car, then watched me for 10 years without ever letting me know who you were. I kept Kane away from you, and I let you." Adrian stopped. The words seemed to alter the air between them. "What did you say?" Claire held the cane loosely beside her. "I knew someone was following me. For how long? Years." "That is impossible." "No." It was repetitive. She walked toward the windows, favoring one side because of the pain in her ribs. "The same shoes outside rehearsal halls. The same engines near my apartment. Men who changed but used identical phrases when they pretended to ask for directions." Adrian followed slowly. "You knew they were mine." "Not at first. When 6 months ago, one of your scholarship trusts paid a contractor through a company named Cross Lake Holdings." Adrian's expression tightened. "That company was buried beneath 4 others. My father taught me to follow patterns. You investigated me. I investigated the person who had been arranging my life." Adrian looked at her as though he no longer recognized the shape of the past 10 years. "Why did you enter the Ashford Grand?" "I learned you were meeting someone there. How Detective Ellis." Adrian's eyes sharpened. "You have been speaking to a police detective. She investigated my father's crash. She could expose you. She could expose both of us." Claire turned toward him. "I went to the hotel because I needed to know whether Adrian Cross would recognize Samuel Whitmore's daughter. The storm, real. The fall, also real. Despite the blood on his shirt and the wreckage around them, something close to disbelief crossed Adrian's face. You planned to approach me. I planned to listen to you first, and then decide whether you were more useful as an ally or an enemy." Adrian stared at her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he looked toward Owen's blood on the rug. "What did you decide?" Claire rested both hands on the top of her cane. "I have not finished deciding." The elevator alarms began sounding far below them. Adrian's men were engaging the attackers in the garage. Grant's voice came through the security speakers. "Lower level contained. 3 hostile men captured. 2 dead. 1 escaped through the service tunnel." Adrian pressed the communication panel. "Find him?" "Yes, boss." The line closed. Adrian turned back to Claire. She stood in the center of his fortress, surrounded by broken glass, blood, and secrets she had carried longer than he understood. "You played me," he said. There was no accusation in the words now, only recognition. Claire lifted her chin. "No, Adrian." Her voice was quiet. "You saw what you needed to see." He stepped close enough for her to feel the warmth of him. This time, he did not touch her. Claire heard his breathing change. Not anger, not fear. Awe. From the hallway below came the heavy sound of locks closing around Owen Price. Inside the penthouse, Adrian Cross finally understood that the woman he had spent 10 years guarding had never been waiting to be rescued. She had been waiting for the door to open from the inside. Adrian stood close enough for Claire to feel the heat of him, yet he did not reach for her. That restraint told her more than anger would have. For 10 years he had imagined himself as the wall between her and the darkness. Now he was staring at the truth. Claire had walked into that darkness with her eyes open in every way that mattered. "You used me," Adrian said. The words were quiet, almost thoughtful. Claire turned toward the broken glass table. "And you watched me, to keep you alive, to keep yourself informed. That is not the same thing. It is when the person being watched does not know she has a choice." Adrian's jaw tightened. Blood had dried along the collar of his shirt. Rainwater still darkened his hair. He looked as though he had fought his way through half of Chicago to reach her. Perhaps he had. It did not erase the years between them. Claire moved toward the cello chair, one hand pressed lightly against her ribs. Adrian noticed. "You are hurt. I have been hurt before. That does not make it acceptable. It makes it familiar." He took one step forward. Claire raised her cane. The movement was small, but he stopped. "You still think I am dangerous to you," he said. "I think you are dangerous to everyone. That is not what I asked." Claire let the silence sit between them. Adrian had spent his life forcing answers out of men who feared him. She would not reward the habit. At last she said, "I think you confuse love with possession." His expression changed. The word love had not been spoken between them before. Claire heard his breath leave slowly. "You think this is love? I think you have spent 10 years calling it duty, because duty sounds cleaner." Adrian looked away. Outside the windows, wind pressed against the glass. Far below, sirens moved through the city. He touched the inside of his left wrist. Guilt. Claire had learned the gesture quickly. "My father asked me to protect you," Adrian said. "My father asked you to keep me alive. They are the same." "No. Keeping someone alive is not the same as deciding how they live." Adrian faced her again. "What should I have done? Trusted me with the truth. You were 13. And then I was 18. Cain was still searching. Then I was 21. I still had no proof that he had stopped. Then I was 25. Adrian said nothing. Claire's voice softened, though the anger remained. "At what age did I become old enough to own my life?" His silence was the only honest answer he had left. A door opened down the hallway. Grant entered with a medical bag in one hand and Owen's phone in the other. His suit jacket was gone. One sleeve of his shirt was torn at the shoulder. A thin line of blood marked his temple. He stopped when he saw Claire holding the cane between herself and Adrian. "I can come back." "No," Claire said. "Stay." Adrian turned. "What did Owen give you?" "Not much willingly. The phone gave us more." Grant placed it on the table. "He has been communicating with Cain through an encrypted account for 9 months. Security schedules warehouse movements, names of drivers, addresses of safe properties." Adrian's face became still again. "How many men did we lose because of him?" 11 confirmed. "Possibly more." "Who recruited him?" "We do not know yet." Claire lowered the cane. "He said Victor was using properties near the lake. Halstead Music Hall was the only location he named." Grant looked at her. "He told you that?" "He believed I would not leave him alive long enough to repeat it." Adrian's eyes moved toward the blood on the rug. "Would you have?" Claire did not answer immediately. Owen had threatened her hands. He had spoken of her father as though Samuel were merely a dead obstacle. He had helped Victor Cain kill men who trusted him. The blade had rested against his throat. For several seconds, Claire had wanted to move it. "I do not know," she said. Adrian studied her. It was not the answer he expected. Perhaps he had expected innocence. Perhaps he had expected a reflection of himself. Claire gave him neither. Grant opened the medical bag. "Sit down." "I am fine. You were thrown into a piano." Claire turned toward him. How do you know that? There is blood on the edge and a dent in the wood. Adrian looked at the piano. His expression darkened. Grant pointed toward the sofa. Sit. Claire almost refused. Pain moved sharply through her ribs when she inhaled. She crossed the room and sat. Grant approached slowly. I am going to examine your ribs. May I touch your side? Claire nodded. He worked carefully, pressing along the lower part of her rib cage. She flinched near the left side. Bruised, he said. Possibly cracked. Your breathing sounds clear. Adrian stood several feet away, watching. Grant cleaned the cut on Claire's cheek and handed her a cold compress. You need a hospital. No, Claire, Adrian said. She turned toward his voice. If I go to a hospital, how long before Kane knows which room Adrian did not answer? Grant closed the medical bag. We can bring a doctor here, one who works for you, one who prefers remaining alive, Grant said. That is not the same as trustworthy. No, he replied, but it makes him punctual. Despite herself, Claire smiled faintly. Grant looked toward Adrian. It is good to know someone in this room still appreciates me. Adrian ignored him. Bring the doctor. Grant nodded, then lifted Owen's phone. There is something else. He activated the device. A recording began to play. Victor Kane's voice filled the room. It was calm, cultured, and older than Claire remembered from the photograph Mara had sent. Once the Cross convoy leaves the tower, disable the internal cameras. Remove the guards from the private floor. The girl must be conscious when she arrives. Her hands are valuable, but not sacred. If pain is required, use it carefully. Claire's fingers tightened around the compress. Adrian looked toward the phone as though Victor were standing in front of him. The recording continued. Do not underestimate her memory. Samuel built his entire life around that child. He may have taught her more than anyone realizes. The message ended. Grant set down the phone. He knew. Claire lowered her hand. He suspected. He knew enough to warn Owen. Adrian crossed the room. What exactly did Samuel teach you? Claire listened to his steps. There it was again, the demand beneath the concern. She stood slowly. You still believe the answer belongs to you. I believe Kane is willing to tear this city apart to get it. That does not make it yours. Adrian stopped in front of her. People died tonight. My father died 10 years ago, and I am trying to prevent more bodies by controlling the same information Victor wants. I am not Victor. No, Victor does not pretend his cage is protection. Grant inhaled quietly. Adrian's face changed as though she had struck him. Claire regretted the cruelty only after the words had landed. She did not take them back. Adrian stepped away. For the first time since she entered his world, he looked uncertain. Not angry, not commanding. Uncertain. What do you want from me? He asked. The truth. You have it. No, I have the parts you decided I could handle. Then ask. Claire faced him. If I give you the sequence, what will you do? Adrian answered without hesitation. Move the Cross accounts before Kane reaches them, and after that, destroy his financial network, and the money connected to your organization. That depends on the account. That is not an answer. It is the only honest one. Claire moved closer. What happens to the money tied to extortion? Adrian's expression hardened. What happens to the businesses used to bribe officials? What happens to the routes that moved women and children? The Cross organization does not traffic people. Your father's organization did. My father is dead. His system is not. Adrian's voice lowered. I closed those routes when I took control. You closed some. How would you know my father's composition contains more than numbers? Claire turned toward the cello. It contains names, companies, dates, patterns of movement. Samuel knew which accounts belonged to which operations. Grant stared at the instrument. How much information can one piece of music hold? The piece is 43 minutes long when played correctly. Adrian looked toward the leather folder beside the cello. And the final movement. 7 minutes. What does it contain? The master access path. Grant moved nearer to the case. Claire heard him stop before touching it. She appreciated that. Adrian did not move. Is the final movement written down? He asked. No. Then Kane cannot complete the sequence without you. No, and neither can I. That is the point. Adrian's gaze settled on her. You can destroy us both. Claire heard no fear in his voice, only realization. Yes. Grant exhaled. The word seemed to alter the room. For years, men had crossed oceans and killed friends for Samuel Whitmore's missing key. It had never been inside a vault. It had been sitting beneath concert lights performing Bach for audiences who never knew that an empire lived behind her music. Adrian approached the cello case. What else is hidden there? Claire felt his hand moving toward the instrument. Do not touch it. He stopped immediately. There is a second element, she said. A physical key, a cipher, where Claire rested her hand on the cello's bridge. Inside. Grant came closer. The instrument was examined before it was delivered to you. They examined the body neck seams and varnish. No one removed the bridge because doing so could damage the sound. Adrian looked at the narrow piece of wood beneath the strings. Samuel hid it there. He designed the compartment. A luthier built it before my father died. What does the cipher do? It translates the final movement into access commands. Grant looked from Claire to Adrian. So Kane needs her memory and the object inside the cello. Yes. Why not destroy the cipher? Claire ran one finger along the bridge. Because it is also the only tool capable of freezing the entire network. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Freezing, not transferring Samuel, did not create the final sequence, so someone could steal the money. What did he create it for? To stop everyone from using it. The answer settled heavily. Claire continued. He knew he might never escape. He knew Kane would eventually force the system into things he could not accept. The final movement was a failsafe. Grant's voice was quiet. An execution switch. For the money, Claire said, not the men. Adrian looked toward the city. How long would the freeze last? Long enough to expose every connected account to the authorities if the data is sent at the same time. Grant stared at her. You have a delivery system. My father built one. Where I do not know. Adrian turned. You said you memorized everything. I memorized the sequence. He never told me where the receiving system was located. Then, how do you activate it? The cipher identifies the endpoint when it connects. Grant rubbed a hand across his jaw. That endpoint could be dead. 10 years is a long time for a server. My father never trusted a single server. Claire touched the leather folder. He used distributed accounts, mirrored data, and automatic verification. He told me the final movement would find its own audience. Adrian almost smiled. That sounds like Samuel. You sound proud of him again. I am. You still used his work. Adrian accepted the accusation. Yes, and you would continue using it. He did not answer. Claire listened to the silence. There was the truth she had been waiting for, not a confession, a choice not yet made. Grant stepped back. The doctor is on the way. I need to secure Owen's access points. Adrian looked toward him. Grant. Yes. No one removes the cello from this room. Grant glanced at Claire. That order should come from her. Adrian's expression tightened. Grant did not look away. Claire felt something shift between the two men. Adrian had built loyalty through command. Now even Grant was asking him to understand the difference between guarding Claire and owning her. Adrian lowered his voice. "Claire, the cello stays with me." Grant nodded. "Then it stays with you." He left. The door closed. Claire and Adrian stood alone again. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Adrian reached beneath his jacket. Claire's hand tightened around the cane. He removed his pistol. Slowly, he placed it on the table. Next came a knife from inside his coat. Then a second pistol from the back of his waistband. Claire listened to each weapon touch the wood. "What are you doing?" "Removing the things that make every conversation with me feel like a threat." "You are still Adrian Cross. I cannot remove that." "No." He reached into his pocket and took out a black access card. He set it beside the weapons. "This opens the penthouse elevator, the private garage, and the street entrance." Claire did not move. "You said I could not leave." "I was wrong." The words were simple. She had not expected them. Adrian continued. "The garage is secure now. Grant's men control the lower floors. A car can take you anywhere in the city. You would let me walk out carrying the sequence?" "Yes." "You would let me take the cipher?" "Yes." "You do not believe I will destroy your accounts?" "I believe you might." "Then why give me the key?" His voice changed, because for once he was not speaking as the head of an organization. "I would rather lose every dollar my family ever touched than become another man who keeps you in a room against your will." Claire stood very still. The city hummed beyond the glass. Adrian pushed the access card closer to her. "You wanted a choice." Her hand moved toward the table. She found the pistol first. Cold metal beneath her fingers. Adrian did not react. She moved past it and touched the card. It was light. Almost nothing. Yet it carried more weight than the armored doors, the guards, and all the promises he had made. "You think this fixes 10 years, she said. "No. You think one card makes this place less of a cage. No. Then what does it do?" "It opens the door." Claire picked it up. Adrian stepped back. The distance he gave her mattered. She walked toward the elevator. Her cane tapped across the marble. Adrian remained near the table. Claire reached the panel and held the card against the reader. The system chimed. Locks released. The elevator doors opened. Cold air rose from the shaft. She could leave. No guard stopped her. No hand closed around her arm. Claire stood at the entrance and listened to the machinery. Behind her, Adrian did not speak. That mattered too. She turned away from the elevator. The doors remained open. Adrian watched her return. "Why did you stop?" he asked. "Because leaving and being free are not always the same thing." The elevator closed behind her. Claire placed the card in her pocket. "I still need Victor Kane." Adrian's gaze sharpened. "So do I." "No." "You want him dead?" "Yes, I want him exposed. He killed your father." "I know." "He tried to have your hands broken." "I know." "He will not stop." "I know." Adrian moved closer. "Then why should he live?" Claire heard the violence gathering beneath his calm. Because death would end his pain. "You think prison is worse. I think evidence lasts longer than a body." Adrian studied her. "Kane owns police officers, prosecutors, and judges. Then we remove the money that owns them. He will still have soldiers. You remove the money before you remove the man." Adrian's expression shifted. Samuel had taught him that principle years earlier. Claire heard the recognition in his silence. "You have been planning this," he said, "for 6 months. Since you discovered the trust." "Yes." "You went to the hotel because you wanted access to my organization. I wanted access to your resources. You placed yourself in front of Kane. He was already coming for me. You could have told Detective Ellis. I did. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What does she know that my father's crash was not an accident? That Victor was present? That you pulled me from the vehicle? She has proof, a photograph. Where did she get it? She would not say. Adrian touched his wrist again. Claire noticed. What are you not telling me? He lowered his hand. Victor did not arrive alone that night. Who was with him? A Chicago police captain. Name Robert Vale. Claire knew it. Vale had signed the original crash report. He had appeared at her hospital room and told her aunt that bad weather caused the accident. He investigated my father's death. He buried it. Is he still alive? He retired 3 years ago. Where is he missing? Claire felt the shape of the story change. Since when? Since Mara Ellis reopened the case. Adrian crossed to the table and picked up Owen's phone. Victor may already know she has the photograph. Claire reached for her own phone. It lay near the cello case. She activated the screen and checked recent calls through the voice system. 3 missed calls, all from Mara. 1 message. Claire played it aloud. Mara's voice entered the room. Claire, do not return to your apartment. Vale is dead. Someone removed the crash evidence from police storage. I found a second image from the scene, and Adrian Cross is not the only man you need to question. Call me. The message ended. Claire immediately called back. The line rang. Once, twice. Then someone answered. No one spoke. Claire listened. A large, empty room. Wind passing through broken glass. A faint mechanical hum. Then a man's voice. Miss Whitmore. Adrian crossed the room and took a position beside her without touching the phone. Victor Kane continued. I have waited a long time to hear your voice. Claire kept her expression still. Where is Detective Ellis safe for the moment? A chair scraped in the background. Mara drew a sharp breath. Claire heard fabric pressed against her mouth. Victor wanted her to know the detective was alive. What do you want? Victor laughed softly. You already know. The copies you stole are useless. So Owen discovered. Adrian's jaw tightened. Victor continued. Your father believed himself clever. He hid numbers in music and trusted a child to remember them. My father understood you. He understood fear. He understood greed. The line grew quiet. When Victor spoke again, the charm had disappeared. Bring the cello to Halstead Music Hall by midnight. Claire looked toward Adrian. He shook his head once. She ignored him. And Mara. She walks out when the system opens. You expect me to believe you? No. I expect you to value her life. Let me speak to her. A pause. Then Mara's voice came through. Claire, do not come here. Something struck her. She gasped. Victor returned to the line. Midnight. The call ended. Claire lowered the phone. Adrian spoke immediately. You are not going. She turned toward him. You gave me the key 5 minutes ago. That does not mean I will stand aside while you walk into an execution. You do not get to decide. I know. His answer came through clenched teeth. Claire stepped closer. Then do not speak as though you do. Adrian struggled with the words. Every instinct in him demanded control. Every lesson he had learned required him to lock the doors, take the cello, and send soldiers into the concert hall. Claire heard that battle in his breathing. Finally he said, Tell me what you need. The question surprised both of them. Claire answered carefully. A map of Halstead Music Hall. Grant entered as she spoke. I can get one. Adrian looked at him. Grant held up a tablet. I heard the call through the security system. Claire continued. I need the original electrical plans, every entrance, every stairwell, and the location of the old sound control room. Grant nodded. The building closed after a fire. Some sections may be unstable. I performed there when I was 11. Adrian looked at her. You know the room. I know how it sounded before the fire. That was 16 years ago. Stone remembers better than people. Grant began searching. Claire opened the cello case. I also need a secure connection to your financial team. Adrian's expression sharpened. For the cipher. Yes. You intend to activate the failsafe inside the hall. Victor will expect me to translate the composition. He will not expect the translation to destroy his access. It may destroy mine, too. Claire rested her hand on the instrument. Yes. Grant looked at Adrian. The room became silent. Adrian had built his power on money that Samuel Whitmore once hid. The final decision belonged to him now, not because Claire needed permission, because partnership required honesty about the cost. Adrian looked toward the weapons on the table, then toward the city his family had controlled for generations. Do it. Grant's eyebrows lifted slightly. Adrian continued. Freeze every account connected to Kane. If Cross money is tied to the same operations, freeze that too. Grant watched him. That could cut half our structure apart. Then half of it should not exist. Claire felt something inside her ease. Not trust. Not yet, but the beginning of it. Grant nodded once. I will prepare the connection. He left again. Adrian remained beside the cello. You planned to use yourself as bait. Yes. You knew Kane would follow you into my world. I hoped he would. You could have died in that hotel. I could have died in my apartment. You should have come to me sooner. I did not know whether you were different from Victor. Adrian absorbed the words. Do you know now? Claire lifted her face toward him. I know you stopped when I asked you not to touch me. That is a very low standard. You would be surprised how many men fail it. He looked down. Claire raised one hand. May I? Adrian did not understand at first. Then he realized she was asking permission to touch him. Yes. Her fingertips found his jaw, the roughness of evening stubble, the line of his cheek, a small scar near his eyebrow. He stood completely still. Claire traced the scar. What happened? My father. The answer was so quiet she almost missed it. How old were you? 14. Why I refused to shoot a man. Claire's fingers paused. Did you shoot him later? Yes. She lowered her hand. Adrian caught it gently, then stopped. May I? Claire nodded. He held her hand between both of his. The gesture contained none of the force he had used in the hotel. You are not what I imagined, Claire said. What did you imagine? A monster? And now a man trying very hard not to become one. His thumb moved across her knuckles. What did you imagine I believed about you, that I was helpless? I never believed that. You believed I needed you. I did. Do you still? Adrian looked toward her cane, the torn dress and the blood drying at her mouth. No, the answer could have hurt. Instead, it freed something between them. He continued, but I hope you choose me. Claire's breath changed. Adrian heard it. He did not move closer. He waited. For the first time, he allowed the space between them to belong entirely to her. Claire reached for his collar. She pulled him down. The kiss was not gentle at first. It carried 10 years of secrets, anger, guilt, and the shock of finally being seen. Adrian's hands remained at her waist without tightening. Claire could feel the restraint in every part of him. She kissed him again, slower this time. Then pain moved through her ribs. She inhaled sharply. Adrian stepped back at once. You need the doctor. You always know how to ruin a moment. I am trying to improve. That remains unproven. A quiet laugh left him. It was the first time Claire had heard it. Not the cold amusement of a man dismissing a threat. A real laugh. It changed his voice. Grant cleared his throat from the doorway. The maps are ready. Claire released Adrian's collar. Grant looked at the weapons on the table, the open elevator access card in Claire's pocket, and the distance between them. I see negotiations were productive. Adrian gave him a warning look. Grant turned away. We have 40 minutes before Kane's deadline. Claire closed the cello case. Adrian reached for it, then stopped. May I carry it? Claire considered the question. No. He nodded. She lifted the case herself. Grant handed her a small communication device. It fits behind your ear. No visible light. The signal will remain silent unless you activate it. Claire took it. Adrian recovered one pistol from the table. He left the others where they were. Claire heard the elevator doors open. She approached Adrian and offered her hand. He took it. Not to lead her, not to restrain her, to stand beside her. Did you really collide with me by accident? He asked. Claire allowed a faint smile. I intended to enter the hotel. And the fall. The floor was wet. So Chicago's most feared man was defeated by bad housekeeping. Do not sound disappointed. I am relieved. They stepped into the elevator with Grant. The doors began to close. Claire rested one hand on the cello case. Victor believes he is waiting for Samuel Whitmore's frightened daughter. Adrian looked at her. What is he getting? Claire faced the descent into the city. The final movement. The elevator descended in silence. Claire stood between Adrian and Grant with the cello case resting against her leg. The building's machinery hummed around them, steady and controlled, while somewhere beyond the steel walls, Chicago prepared for midnight. Grant studied the map on his tablet. Halstead Music Hall has 3 public entrances, 2 service corridors, and an access tunnel that once connected to the heating plant. Still open? Adrian asked. Partially. The fire collapsed one section, but there is enough space for a small team. How many men can Kane place inside? Without drawing attention, perhaps 20. Claire listened to the numbers and imagined the building as it had been 16 years earlier. A grand lobby with black and white tile, 2 sweeping staircases, a concert hall shaped like a horseshoe, velvet seats, a shallow stage, balconies built to carry music toward every corner of the room. She remembered standing beneath the lights at 11 years old, terrified that her bow would slip from her hand. Her father had sat in the first row. You do not have to defeat the room, he had told her. You only have to give it something true. The elevator stopped. The doors opened into the garage. A black sedan waited with its engine running. Several armed men stood near the concrete pillars, but Adrian raised one hand before any of them approached Claire. No convoy, he said. Grant frowned. Kane will have people watching every route. Exactly. Adrian opened the rear door. We go in one car. The others moved separately. Claire placed the cello case across the seat and entered. Adrian sat beside her. Grant took the front. The car left the garage and climbed into the city. Rain had turned to light snow. Tires whispered over wet streets. Streetlights reflected against the pavement, though Claire knew them only as warmth passing briefly across the window. Grant connected to the secure communications system. Teams 1 and 2 are moving toward the tunnel. Team 3 will cover the east exit. No one enters the hall until Claire gives the signal. Adrian looked at her. You are still certain about this? It was not a command disguised as a question. It was a question. Claire appreciated the difference. No, she said. I am certain Victor has Mara. I am certain he will keep killing until someone stops him. The rest is risk. Adrian's hand rested near hers on the seat. He did not touch her. What happens if the cipher fails? We improvise. Grant glanced back. That is not a plan. It is the final part of every plan. Claire opened the cello case and reached beneath the neck of the instrument. Her fingers found a narrow seam hidden beneath the velvet lining. She removed a small black device no larger than a matchbox. Adrian leaned closer. What is that A transmitter? You had it inside the case. My father placed it there. Grant's attention sharpened. Does it still work? I tested the battery last month. Adrian stared at her. You knew this was coming. I knew something was coming. Claire connected the device to the tiny port hidden beneath the cello bridge. A soft tone sounded. Grant checked the tablet. I have a signal. The screen began to populate with lines of encrypted information. Claire ran her hand along the strings. When I play the final movement, the transmitter converts the intervals into a command sequence. Where does it send them? Adrian asked. To every live endpoint Samuel created. Grant watched the data. There are hundreds. Some are decoys. Some are mirrors. The system decides which accounts remain active. And then Adrian asked, the money freezes. All of it. Anything connected to the original network. Adrian looked through the windshield. That could tear half the city apart. Claire closed the case. Then half the city was standing on something rotten. No one spoke after that. The sedan moved north toward the lake. Halstead Music Hall appeared beneath a dark sky shortly before midnight. The building stood alone behind iron fencing, its stone facade blackened by the old fire. Several upper windows were missing. Snow passed through the broken openings and disappeared into the darkness within. The driver stopped half a block away. Grant turned in his seat. Kane's men are watching the front entrance. 2 on the roof, at least 4 vehicles nearby. Claire lifted the communication device and placed it behind her ear. Adrian adjusted the receiver. Can you hear me? Yes. If the line goes silent, leave. I will not. Claire. You asked me to trust you. Trust me too. His expression tightened. Then he nodded. Grant opened the door. Cold air entered the car. Claire stepped onto the sidewalk with her cane in one hand and the cello case in the other. Adrian followed. A voice came through Claire's receiver. One of Kane's men is approaching. Footsteps crossed the snow. A man stopped several feet away. Miss Whitmore comes alone. Adrian moved beside her. She does not. The man's voice remained calm. Mr. Kane said Cross waits outside. Claire turned toward Adrian. He did not speak. She reached into her coat and gave him the access card from the penthouse. His fingers closed around it. I will call when I am ready. Adrian lowered his voice. If you say my name once I come in. That may be exactly what Victor expects. Then say it twice. Claire almost smiled. The man near the entrance shifted impatiently. Now. Claire moved toward the building. Adrian did not follow. Each step away from him felt heavier than the one before, but he allowed her to choose it. The front doors opened. Warm, stale air met her. The lobby smelled of dust-burned wood and damp stone. Her cane tapped across cracked tile. Echoes traveled farther than they had when she was a child. The fire had changed the room. Not enough. 2 men searched her coat and the outside of the cello case. One reached for the cane. Claire tightened her grip. I needed to walk. You will not need to walk far. He took the cane anyway. Claire did not resist. She listened as he placed it against a wall 8 feet to her left. The hidden blade remained undiscovered. Another man carried the cello case. Careful, Claire said. He laughed. It is wood. It is worth more than your life. The laughter stopped. They guided her through the lobby and into the concert hall. The room opened around her. She felt it at once. The vast ceiling, the empty balconies, the deep hollow beneath the stage. Snow slipped through holes in the roof and melted against old seats. A single lamp burned near the center aisle. Claire could not see it, but she felt its heat when she passed. Victor Kane applauded slowly. The sound traveled across the hall and returned from 3 directions. "Samuel's daughter," he said. "At last." Claire stopped near the stage. His voice came from the center aisle, perhaps 20 feet away. Older than Adrian's. Smooth. Certain. A man accustomed to hearing fear before his name. "Where is Mara?" Claire asked. A chair scraped behind the curtain. Mara's breathing came faintly from stage left, alive. For now. Victor approached. His shoes were polished leather. His right heel struck more sharply than the left. He stopped close enough that Claire smelled expensive cologne and cigar smoke. "You have your father's lack of manners. You killed him." Victor sighed. "We have not even begun, and you are already simplifying history. You forced his car off the road." "Samuel forced my hand." Claire heard Adrian's voice through the receiver. "I am inside the lobby." She did not respond. Victor continued. "Your father built a system, took payment for it, and then decided he had a conscience. Men who discover morality after collecting their reward are rarely as noble as their children imagine. He stopped you from selling people. He disrupted business. He tried to protect them. He tried to control me." The resemblance between Victor and Adrian's old instincts was not lost on Claire. The difference was what each man did when challenged. Adrian had opened the door. Victor had killed the man holding it. Claire raised her chin. "You were at the crash." Victor did not answer immediately. She heard the pleasure in his silence. "Yes. Why, I wanted to see whether Samuel had hidden the key in the vehicle. You watched him die. I watched him choose." Claire's hand tightened around the cello case handle. "He turned the car to save you," Victor said. "I had never understood why he considered you so valuable. Then Cross arrived and dragged you from the fire as though the city would collapse if you stopped breathing." Victor moved closer. 10 years later, I still do not understand." Claire's voice became quiet. "That is why you will lose?" Victor laughed. "Bring the instrument." The man holding the case placed it on stage. Claire climbed the 3 shallow steps without her cane. She counted each one and moved slowly enough to appear uncertain. Victor's men relaxed. That was useful. She opened the case and removed the cello. The room shifted as armed men changed positions. Claire listened carefully. 2 in the lower aisle, 3 on the right balcony, 2 on the left, 1 behind the curtain with Mara, Victor near the front row, another man close to the stage stairs, at least 9 inside the hall. There would be more in the lobby. Claire sat on the old wooden chair placed at center stage. The cello rested between her knees. Victor stood below her. "You will play the complete sequence. You do not know what complete means. I know the final movement is missing from every page my men found. Then you know the pages were never enough." Victor's voice sharpened. "Translate each phrase after you play it. And when you have the key, Mara leaves. You expect me to trust you. I expect you to understand the value of time." A man dragged Mara from behind the curtain. Her hands were bound. Tape covered her mouth. A bruise marked one side of her face. Victor removed a pistol from inside his coat and placed it against Mara's temple. Claire heard the metallic touch. Mara's breathing shook. "Begin." Claire lifted the bow. Her receiver remained silent. Adrian was listening. Grant was waiting for the transmitter. Victor believed he controlled the room. Claire placed the bow on the strings. The first note entered the hall. Low, warm, alone. It traveled through the ruined space and returned as something larger. Claire continued. The opening movement carried the grief of winter water. Her father had written it after her mother died. As a child, Claire thought the descending phrase sounded like someone walking down a staircase and never returning. Now the same notes activated the first layer of Samuel's system. Grant's voice entered her ear. Signal received. Claire played on. The second phrase rose sharply. Intervals became numbers. Numbers became account routes. The transmitter beneath the bridge converted each movement into code and sent it through Grant's secure connection. Victor listened from below the stage. "What does that phrase mean?" Claire answered without stopping. "Verification. Of what? The network." Grant spoke quietly in her ear. "Endpoints are responding. 73 active." Claire continued into the next passage. Her bow moved faster. The melody split, one line dark and steady, the other restless above it. Samuel had taught her to hear both at once. One carried the account structure, the other carried the list of names. Grant's voice returned. "Kane shipping accounts identified. Political funds. Police payments." Adrian spoke. "Keep going." Victor paced below the stage. His right heel struck the floor. Sharp, impatient. Claire moved into the third section. Her father's voice returned through memory. "Do not rush the rests. Silence is part of the message." She paused exactly where the score required. Across the network, dormant accounts opened long enough to reveal their histories. Grant inhaled. "We have transfers connected to Vail, judges, customs officers, 3 federal contractors." Victor's phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. One of his men answered his own device near the balcony. "Mr. Kane." Victor looked up. "Not now. It is the Lakeshore account." Victor's breathing changed. "What about it?" "Access is denied." Another phone began ringing. Then another. Claire kept playing. The music grew darker. Victor stepped toward the stage. "What are you doing translating?" His phone rang a third time. This time he answered. A voice spoke rapidly through the speaker. Claire caught fragments. "Frozen. Zurich. All transfers rejected." Victor ended the call and raised the pistol toward her. "Stop!" Claire did not. The bow drove into the final movement. The composition transformed. The mournful melody disappeared beneath a pattern of hard, relentless notes. Grant spoke over the receiver. "Failsafe active." Adrian's voice followed. "Cross accounts are freezing too." Claire kept playing. Victor climbed onto the stage. "Stop!" He struck the bow from her hand. It skidded across the floor. The cello gave a wounded vibration beneath her fingers. Victor grabbed Claire by the throat and pulled her from the chair. "What did you do?" Claire's breath strained beneath his hand. "I gave the system an audience." He shoved her against the cello. "You froze my money. I froze everyone's." Victor stared at her. "You touched the Cross accounts." "Yes." A small, bitter laugh left him. "Adrian will kill you himself." Claire heard movement in her receiver. Adrian's voice came low and controlled. "No, I will not." Victor pressed the pistol against Claire's ribs. "You are going to reverse it. There is no reversal. There is always a reversal. Not this time." He struck her across the face. Claire fell against the chair. The cello slipped from her grasp and hit the stage. The instrument struck hard, but the case lining she had placed beneath it softened the impact. Victor seized the neck and raised it. Claire's heart stopped. "Open the accounts," he said, "or I break the only thing your father left you." Claire pushed herself upright. "He left me more than wood." Victor brought the cello down against the edge of the chair. A crack sounded through the hall. Claire heard it inside her chest. The instrument did not shatter, but a seam split near the lower body. The transmitter remained active. Grant spoke through her receiver. "Data is still moving." Claire steadied herself. Victor lifted the cello again. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the hall. Men shouted. Victor froze. Adrian's voice entered Claire's ear. "Power is down!" Gunfire erupted from the right balcony. Adrian's team returned fire from the lobby and side corridors. The hall multiplied every shot. Men cursed at echoes, firing towards sounds that had already moved. Claire did not need light. She listened. Victor stood 6 feet to her right, still holding the cello. Mara had fallen near the curtain. The guard behind her moved toward the stage stairs. Claire dropped to one knee as a bullet crossed above her. "Grant," she whispered. "I hear you." 3 men on the right balcony, 1 moving behind the curtain, 2 in the center aisle. Grant relayed the positions. Shots answered. A body struck the balcony rail. Victor grabbed Claire's coat and pulled her against him. The pistol returned to her ribs. "You planned this." "Yes." He dragged her backward toward the service corridor. Claire's shoes crossed broken wood. Her cane remained in the lobby. Her blade was out of reach. Victor believed that made her helpless again. He had learned nothing from Owen. Mara struggled near the curtain. Claire heard rope against wood. The guard moved toward her. "Mara down," Claire shouted. Mara threw herself sideways. Adrian fired from the aisle. The guard fell. Victor pulled Claire through the curtain. The backstage area was narrower. Curtains absorbed some of the echoes, making each sound easier to locate. His breath was close to her ear. "You destroyed a fortune. You built it on graves. I built power. You rented obedience." He tightened his arm around her throat. "You sound like Samuel. He was better than you. He died afraid." Claire went still. Victor smiled against her hair. "Yes. I heard him in the car. He knew exactly what was coming." Claire's grief rose hot and violent. Victor felt her body tense. He mistook it for weakness. "He begged me to spare you." Claire closed her eyes. Her father's hand across her chest, his final breath. The song repeated every morning. "Never let them take the music." Victor lowered his voice. "He offered me everything." "You are lying. Does it matter?" It did not. That was the trap. Victor wanted her fighting the past instead of the man holding her. Claire forced one slow breath into her lungs. His right arm held the pistol. His left crossed her throat. His injured heel remained sharper when he shifted. Behind them, the stage floor dropped slightly near the old orchestra lift. Claire remembered it. The fire had damaged the locking system. She moved 1 foot backward. The boards dipped beneath her heel. Victor adjusted his stance. Claire said, "You still do not understand why my father chose me. I understand perfectly." He was sentimental. "No." She drove her heel into Victor's right foot. He cursed and loosened his grip. Claire turned inside his arm and pushed both of them toward the weakened section of floor. The boards cracked. Victor lost balance. His pistol fired into the ceiling. Claire dropped low. The floor gave way beneath one of his legs. He fell hard, trapped to the thigh in the broken orchestra lift. The pistol slid across the stage. Claire heard it strike metal near Mara. Victor caught Claire's ankle. She fell. He dragged her toward the hole, rage breaking through his controlled voice. "You blind little liar!" Claire kicked his wrist. He held tighter. Then another shot sounded. Not from Victor's gun. His grip vanished. Adrian stood beyond the curtain. Claire recognized his breathing before he spoke. "Let her go." Victor looked down at the blood spreading across his shoulder. "You missed." "No," Adrian said. "I chose the shoulder." He moved closer with his pistol raised. Victor laughed through the pain. "She froze your accounts." "I know." "She destroyed your father's empire." "I know." "She used you." Adrian stopped several feet away. "I know." Victor stared at him. Then his expression changed. He finally understood. Adrian was not surprised. He was not angry. He had chosen Claire knowing what her music would cost. Victor reached for the knife inside his coat. Adrian shifted his aim. Claire heard it. "Do not shoot," she said. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Claire, trust me." Victor pulled the knife and lunged as far as the broken floor allowed. Claire moved toward the sound, caught his wrist with both hands, and turned the blade away. Adrian stepped in and kicked Victor's arm against the stage. The knife fell. Victor grabbed Claire again, using her body to shield his chest. Adrian raised the pistol. "Move away from her." Victor laughed. "There it is. The command. He still thinks you belong to him." Claire felt Adrian's anger gather. He could have ordered her again. Instead, he lowered his voice. "Claire, tell me what you need." The words cut through everything. The gunfire, the fear, the years of being watched. He had finally learned how to stand beside her. "Lower your aim," she said. Adrian obeyed. Victor tightened his hold. Claire waited for the change in his breath before he moved the knife. Then she twisted sharply toward the trapped leg. His body turned with her. His shoulder opened. Adrian fired once. Victor collapsed against the broken floor. The knife struck the stage and spun away. Silence entered the backstage area. Claire stepped free. Adrian reached toward her but stopped. "May I?" She nodded. His hands closed gently around her arms. He checked her face, throat, and ribs without forcing her to move. "You are bleeding. So are you. I am not. Then it belongs to someone else." A grim expression touched his mouth. Behind them, Mara pulled the tape from her lips. "Romantic," she said hoarsely, in a deeply concerning way. Grant entered through the curtain with 2 men. "The balconies are secure. 4 Kane men surrendered. The others are down." He looked toward Victor. "Alive." Victor groaned. Claire faced him. Victor Kane lay wounded, trapped, and stripped of the money that had purchased his power. Adrian removed a second pistol from his coat and held it toward Claire. The offer remained between them. Victor saw it. "So this is who you are," he said. "Your father's little executioner." Claire listened to the pain in his voice. For 10 years she had imagined the man who killed Samuel as something larger than human. Now he was only an aging criminal bleeding into rotten wood. She did not take the gun. Victor laughed weakly. "You do not have the stomach." Claire moved closer and knelt beyond his reach. "Death would turn you into a story men like Owen tell themselves when they want to feel brave." Sirens approached outside. Mara stepped beside her. Claire continued. "Prison will make you evidence." Victor's expression changed. For the first time, Claire heard fear enter his breathing. Mara took Adrian's pistol before he could object. "I am placing Victor Kane under arrest for kidnapping, attempted murder conspiracy, and enough financial crimes to keep several courts occupied for the rest of his life." Victor looked toward Adrian. "You think the law will hold me?" Adrian glanced at Grant. Grant lifted the tablet. "Your accounts are frozen. Your payment records are public. Every official you owned received the same evidence at the same time." Mara smiled without warmth. "They are already choosing which of you to betray first." Federal agents entered the hall minutes later. Some looked at Adrian with suspicion. Others stared at the wounded men and broken stage. Mara kept control of the scene. Claire stood beside her damaged cello. She ran her fingers along the split seam. Adrian approached quietly. "Can it be repaired?" "Yes. You are certain no." He stood with her in the silence. "I am sorry. You did not break it. I brought the war to your life." Claire touched the cracked wood. "The war was there before I knew its name. Grant joined them. The freeze is complete." Adrian looked at the tablet. "How much remains of Kane's accessible structure? Almost nothing. His legitimate companies are locked under investigation. And ours?" Grant paused. 46% of Cross assets are frozen. More will be exposed when the authorities follow the connected accounts." Adrian absorbed the loss. Years of power had disappeared during a 7-minute composition. Grant waited for anger. It did not come. "What remains clean?" Adrian asked. "Real estate, 2 shipping companies, the hotels, several construction firms." Separate them from the organization. Grant stared at him. That will take months. Begin tonight, and the crews dependent on the other routes, offer them legal work. Those who refuse can leave. Some will fight. Adrian looked toward Victor being lifted onto a stretcher. Then they can explain why they preferred his kind of business. Grant nodded slowly. The old Cross organization ended in that moment not with a bullet, but with an instruction spoken beside a broken cello. Weeks passed. Victor Kane survived surgery and entered federal custody. His records led to arrests across Illinois, New York, Nevada, and 3 countries overseas. Robert Vale's remains were found near an abandoned Kane property. The second photograph from the crash entered evidence. Samuel Whitmore's death was officially reopened as a homicide. Mara visited Claire twice during the investigation. She never asked for the final sequence. Perhaps she understood that some doors were safer closed. The Cross organization fractured. Several captains disappeared. Others accepted Adrian's offer and moved into legitimate work. Grant spent long nights rebuilding companies that had once existed only to hide money. Adrian lost power territory and men. He slept better. Claire returned to her apartment. The first morning she stood in the center of the small living room and listened to the pipes knock inside the walls. No guards occupied the hallway. No camera moved outside the door. Adrian had kept his promise. He did not watch. He called once. Claire did not answer. He waited. 2 days later he sent a message. The luthier says the cello can be restored. Claire listened to the message twice. She replied with an address. 6 weeks after the night at Halstead Music Hall, Claire stepped onto the stage of a restored downtown theater. Her cello rested between her knees. The repaired seam remained faintly visible beneath the varnish. She had asked the luthier not to hide it completely. Some scars deserved honesty. The audience settled. Claire raised her bow. In the back row, Adrian sat alone. No guards beside him, no men in the aisle. She could not see him, but she knew where he was. His right shoe still landed slightly heavier than the left. The first note of the Lake Nocturne entered the theater. This time no accounts opened, no empire collapsed. It was only music. That made it more powerful. Claire played the complete composition, including the final movement her father had never written down. The last note faded. For several seconds the room remained silent. Then the audience rose. Applause filled the theater. Claire bowed her head. Outside, snow had begun to fall. Adrian waited beneath the marquee. Claire emerged carrying the cello case. He stepped forward but did not offer his arm. "Are you following me again?" she asked. "No." "Watching from the shadows?" "No." "Arranging my transportation, I considered it." Claire stopped. Adrian corrected himself. "I did not." "Good." They stood together while traffic moved through the snowy street. Adrian looked at the cello case. "May I carry it?" Claire handed it to him. The weight surprised him. She heard it in his breath. "You did not expect it to be heavy." "I expected to be stronger." "You are wearing an expensive coat. That creates unrealistic confidence." Adrian smiled. "Where are we going?" "My apartment." He looked toward her. "Is that an invitation?" "It is a test." "Of what?" "Whether Chicago's most feared man can carry a cello up 4 flights of stairs without ordering someone else to do it." "I have people for that." Claire stopped walking. Adrian exhaled. "I would be honored to carry the cello." She took his arm. Not because she needed guidance, because she chose the company. They walked into the falling snow together. 10 years earlier, Adrian Cross had pulled a wounded girl from a burning car and believed he had saved her life. Years later, Claire Whitmore entered his world carrying a white cane, a broken history, and a song powerful enough to end an empire. He had spent a decade guarding her from the darkness. In the end, she was the one who showed him how to leave it. Behind them, the theater doors closed. The city continued breathing. And somewhere beneath the noise of Chicago, the final note of Samuel Whitmore's composition remained no longer a secret, no longer a weapon, but a promise that neither power nor fear would decide Claire's life again.